So, in the incredibly unlikely event that I ever become super rich, there are a few things I want to do with the money. Give most of it away so I can sleep at night. Build a house with a full-size, fully functioning, and fully staffed Sheets inside it. Job creator. Buy back the hunting club where my father and grandfather used to work and turn it into a wildlife preserve so the deer can just sort of live there without getting shot at. These are my dreams. Last week, after watching Kate Logan's riveting 2014 documentary Kidnapped for Christ, I added a new item to the dream list: create my own A-team and travel the world liberating teenagers from abusive boarding schools. Damn the law, if I could afford it, I'd be doing this right now. In fact, why is this my responsibility? There are plenty of rich people already. Why aren't any of them doing this? Have they not seen the movie? Maybe they haven't seen the movie. Maybe you haven't seen the movie. If not, go watch the movie. It's available to rent on a bunch of different streaming services. I highly recommend it. Just in case you still need convincing, I'm going to talk some more about it right now, and I'll try to underline what makes this such a good and important movie while keeping things spoiler-free. Okay? Cool. Kidnapped for Christ follows its director, Kate Logan, who was still a film student when she began working on this project, as she visits Escuela Caribe, a boarding school in the Dominican Republic owned and operated by American evangelical Christians. Logan is a Christian herself. She's a film student at Biola University, where the faculty has included the likes of William Lane Craig, J.P. Moreland, and J. Warner Wallace. She arrives at Escuela Caribe expecting to find a ministry doing good work, helping troubled teens get their lives back on track. Logan realizes almost immediately that something is very wrong at the school. For one thing, the students she interviews aren't the kind of tormented antisocial juvenile delinquents she was expecting. David, the 17-year-old young man on whom the film centers, seems to have been popular and happy prior to being sent to the school. He mentions taking all advanced placement courses at his high school and preparing to attend college. The only reason his conservative Christian parents have banished him to Escuela Caribe seems to be that he is gay. Logan talks to other students. There's Beth, who struggles with an anxiety disorder, and Ty, who has used drugs in an attempt to cope with sexual abuse she experienced as a child. They both seem as though they would benefit from the intervention of a proper therapist. Unfortunately, there's nothing therapeutic about life at Escuela Caribe. The students are treated like recruits at a military boot camp. Their living quarters are subjected to regular inspections. They are ranked according to how obedient and accepting of the program they are, with privileges reserved for those in the higher levels, and those in the lower levels essentially treated as members of an untouchable caste. And they're forced to do push-ups or squat thrusts when they break a rule or otherwise displease a member of staff or a student supervisor. There's also a space euphemistically referred to as the quiet room, or the QR, where students are subjected to solitary confinement, and also, according to a former employee of the school, outright physical abuse. Logan gets multiple members of the staff of Escuela Caribe to admit on camera that students have been abused at the school, but incredibly, in the next breath, those same people attempt to excuse the offenses they just acknowledged. Abuses happen everywhere, someone declares, as though it's inevitable. As her film evolves from a puff piece to an exposé, Logan becomes more personally involved in the lives of her subjects. She helps David get word to a former classmate back in the U.S., and before long, a small army of friends are working to get him out of Escuela Caribe. I don't want to spoil how things turn out for David because there are a few twists and turns, and it makes for a riveting viewing experience. I can tell you this: David is fortunate to have so many people who, unlike his own parents, are concerned for his welfare and willing to do whatever it takes to bring him home. From what we're shown, other students like Ty and Beth don't have that kind of support. David appears to hail from decidedly upper-middle-class surroundings. His friends have the resources to dedicate some serious time and money to his cause. Other students at Escuela Caribe are not so lucky. But then again, there must be someone with some money behind them, because sending a kid to this place is not cheap. We're told with offhanded understatement that tuition for Escuela Caribe is more expensive than Harvard. Imagine having the resources to send your child to a school as expensive as Harvard, but choosing to ship them to a place like this instead. Imagine sending your child away to a school with a behavior modification program when their only offense is being gay or struggling with anxiety or trauma. This movie gave me a lot to think about. It made me angry. It made me very, very angry. It also forced me to confront some uncomfortable truths about our society and even some people in my own life. Sometimes my wife will give me a hard time constructively, good-naturedly, about how I project such certainty in these videos. And she's right. When I get up on my soapbox, I do tend to speak in unequivocal terms. This is good, this is bad, these people are right, those people are wrong. It's not that I see the world as a simple black and white place. By the time I've considered a particular subject to the point that I'm ready to make a video about it, my thoughts and feelings regarding it are usually crystallized to the point that I can talk about it with a lot of self-assurance, but that doesn't mean my mind can't or won't ever change. And it doesn't mean it's simple. The world is usually not a simple place. It's often complex and confusing, and it can be deeply troubling. I know there are people in my orbit, extended family, friends of family, who could watch this movie and not see anything wrong with what we see going on at Escuela Caribe. They'd call it tough love. They'd say the kids are homesick and playing for sympathy, and the filmmaker is too soft-hearted. They'd make excuses for the abuses too blatant to deny, just like the staff members in the film do. Some of these are people I like, love, respect, or admire. But I just can't accept that you can be okay with a place like Escuela Caribe and be a good person. Something in me tells me that's wrong. That's a contradiction. Good people don't send their kids away to be disciplined and reprogrammed for being gay. Good people don't send their kids to a place like Escuela Caribe for any reason. No matter how genuinely troubled a teenager might be, you don't heal people by abusing them. This should not be acceptable to people. And I feel like people who do find it acceptable should not be acceptable to me. And that's a tough thing to face. Also tough to face, there are thousands of places like Escuela Caribe across the United States and around the world. Many of them, I can only assume, are even worse than Escuela Caribe. Kidnapped for Christ works as drama. The stories it tells us about these teenagers trapped at this quote-unquote school are very compelling. And it works as activism. It sheds light on a widespread problem that has been ignored for too long. If you haven't seen it, see it, and consider heeding its call to action. The Escuela Caribes of the world exist because we allow them to. The abusers and exploiters who run programs like this rely on our ignorance and indifference to operate and prosper. Let's take that away from them, because they don't deserve it, and the kids they're harming deserve better.